And if you've gotten stuck in binging and restricting behaviors and feeling like you're doing everything you can only to feel like you give up and let it all go, then this week is for you. We are in March. It's the end of the first quarter, and hopefully you've got things kind of in a pace for this year. And this month, we're looking at the 4 principles of lasting change. This week, we're going to start with safety before strategy, because you can't make lasting changes unless you're in a system that feels safe and secure. So let's dive right in. Lasting change does not begin with willpower, discipline, or the perfect plan. It begins with safety. When the nervous system does not feel safe, the brain shifts into survival mode. This fight, flight, or freeze. In these states, we'll have behavior becoming reactive, which is impulsive or defensive, rigid, perfectionism and control, or avoidant, shutting down, procrastinating, and dissociating. No amount of strategy can override a threatened system. Real change happens when the body feels safe enough to participate in choice. Regulation will precede transformation, and the more that you can think clearly, the more that you will be able to survive. So, when we are stressed, remember that the mind does not know nuances. That once we're stressed and we're in primitive brain, we are in life or death. And in life or death, we are now beneath the soil. We are no longer tending to the garden above. We're beneath the soil. We are going to start with that perceived expectations and perceived realities. As performance comes on, we start to look at perceived expectations of what we should and could be doing and perceived realities, all of these kind of universal constructs, Jungian universal unconscious, all these archetypes and implicit messages of what performance is going to start coming in. The amygdala is going to start getting amped up. Attachment's definitely in there. And we're going to go in, the amygdala will go into a room. I haven't talked about the amygdala in a long time, but I like to see the amygdala like a long corridor. And it's almost like a hotel, like a high-rise hotel. So it's just a long corridor with tons of doors, but then you have multiple levels and they all look the same, but they're at different spaces in our lives that are overlapping. And many times you're just kind of peeking in and hovering in a doorway and these thoughts will come to you and you're like, well, that's really weird. Like I haven't thought about that one in a long time. And other times it's like Harry Potter Dementors are like hovering over you. You see the doors open, but you are in that room and you feel completely helpless and frozen as you're in that room. And sometimes you see the room and you're like, get me out of here. And you start running. Do you see the fight, the flight, and the freeze happening? That's our survival brain. And there's no shame in this. This is why you are alive. This is why the gene pool kept going. It is what keeps us alive. We are so civilized now. It's too much. And yet that's what we have and that's what we're leaning on. And so it's important for us to ground above the soil and root ourselves into some truths. And as we build this mind-body connection, which is what this week is all about, what we find is that we can tend to our fruit a lot more when we're not trying to dig in the soil, trying to make perceived control changes that will help us to tend to that fruit. And so it's important, and I'll have an extra worksheet for my paid subscribers. There will be a link in the exclusive section. I actually have a worksheet that I've been giving my clients to be able to decision tree. Am I tending my garden or am I tending the soil? Am I getting stuck under the soil? And really, once you're under the soil, it's good to have a honest, third-party, unbiased feedback, because the second you get beneath the soil, you're going to start to pull things up, and that perceived reality is going to come in, and it's going to taint your view. And so that's really important. That's where community comes in. That's where confession comes in. That's where coaching and therapy comes in, is once you realize you're beneath the soil, go find somebody to say, I don't feel like I'm coming at this, truly in a mindful state. What do you think about this? And it's important for us to stay above the soil line, tending our garden. And sometimes you want to know, am I tending my garden? And is this a problem with the tree? Is it a problem with the orchard? Spoiler alert, if it's an orchard, you're below the soil. Or am I tending my soil and I'm getting lost in the quicksand of my own thoughts? And because regulation precedes transformation, it's important that we take those deep breaths, that we do the body scans, that we really find ourselves firmly planted and we can see where we are now, and that we can tell ourselves, I am safe. I am here. Those 5 senses work really, really well. And as we do these mindful resets, then we can start to approach the problem. And we want to approach the problem like a jigsaw puzzle and not get into a narrow focus of, I have to do it this way because success, failure, you're beneath the soil. But instead, zoom out and say, okay, well, I found a lot of the hut. And, I'm doing a lot here, but I can also see how there's a bunch of flowers happening. And so I think I'm going to put those together because I really like the bright colors. I'm going to start pulling those colors together. And we start to see that as we just zoom out and say, I think these kind of go together, and we categorize. And I think this is sky. I'm just going to put the sky together. And I'm going to put, kind of the little village over in this area. These all seem to be similar colors. We can get further as we group things in similar ways, and we start to compartmentalize and categorize these places. And it's not to shove them away and say, this is not what I want, so go away. It's about being present and realizing that things will go together, and it's giving you that kind of that removed perspective. And that removed perspective allows us to be more mindful and intentional on how we want to interact with it. And so sometimes we have a lot of attention. We're like, I want the small details. And sometimes we're like, just give me the corner pieces. I want to be dedicated. I want to show up every day. But today is a day I just want the corners. I want the edges, and start putting the edges together. And maybe I'll start seeing a major piece that'll be easy to come in and get that. I want small successes, but I want to stay success oriented. And as we ground and stay present, that safety is right there to pull us up above the soil and let us tend that garden. And we're going to look at, in the worksheet for exclusive content for paid subscribers, we're going to see my rooted framework and this rooted model that helps us to tend to that fruit and not get lost in that soil. We can't think clearly in a survival state. So it's important for us, before we start to act, so that we ask ourselves, do I feel safe enough to choose right now? And so as we ask ourselves, do I feel safe enough to choose right now? We then start to pull in, and that rooted model is regulate without judgment. Just regulate to the here and now. Find your breath. Find your stance. There is not one person on this world and this planet that is too busy to breathe. And yet, we're not breathing. We kind of have these quick breaths, like we're kind of all over the place. But taking 30 seconds to give yourself that space to breathe. 5 minutes would be great, but 30 seconds will do everything. Giving yourself that space is so important. And as you give yourself that space, then you can start to observe those thoughts. Zoom out, zoom in, find a focal point. And as you find that focal point and you let go of the judgment, we start to look at empowering statements and looking through these valid, invalid data points. And through setting our intentions and invalid data points, we're looking at orienting to safety cues. Again, those body scans and being able to see those invalid and valid data points. What am I telling myself that is mine? And what am I telling myself that's someone else's? Can I explicitly recall what this is? Or is this something that I just think is there and that I have to do it because in a high stress state, it allowed me to survive? That's orienting to those safety cues, is finding those invalid and valid data points and letting go of the invalid, not because they're not true, because they're not yours. And holding on to the valid, that's empowerment. And that will allow us to go to intention. And intention gets us to titrating change in our rooted model. And titrating change says, don't do it too quickly. Take one micro step forward. We're not doing everything. We're just doing one micro step. And we're getting curious about it. And as we take that little tiny micro step forward, we're saying, what did this do for me? I have a lot of clients. I do not do substance abuse counseling, and I do let my clients know, like, it's not my forte. And I do have a lot of clients who struggle with the language of discipline and this binging and restricting. And what I let them know is it's so much bigger than how much alcohol you consume or how much nicotine you consume. And when we can come from a place of curiosity and realize that we're beneath the soil and the substance use is just another way to avoid and numb and escape, then we can start to have a lot more grace for ourselves and show up sober curious. And as we show up sober curious, and we let down the parameters of performance, we let go of binging and restricting, and we really see a lot of growth as people look at and redefine the narratives that kept them so trapped and in bondage for so long. And that brings us to engaging in choice. So as we're setting the intentions, taking that micro step, we're now choosing to engage in something, getting curious about what it is we want, allowing us to now zoom in, zoom out, and find another focal point. And this is what a positive flow state is allowing ourselves a lot of curiosity and grace as we navigate through, realizing there's not one destination, but it's all about this journey, and acceptance is a major part of that journey. It comes with us every single day. And when we know that it's not one door to choose, it's not one place to be, but these dualities of truth can happen. And we're just there to allow life to present to us, and we have to be present for that to happen. Things start to change in our mind, things start to change in our body, and things start to change in our world. And the last part of the rooted model, I did not forget about it, but that last part of the rooted model is this deepen integration. And the deepen integration is that positive flow state. It's allowing you to start one good decision, one decision for that value and capacity, because value, capacity, and motivation are together. So check out that link. It will help you to deepen the roots and build new ruts, because for every mile of road are 2 miles of ruts. And that's what we're going to explore next week. So stay tuned, subscribe, make sure that you're getting next week's challenge. For this week, I want you to go in. I want you to get into that worksheet, start looking at and getting curious about, what am I doing? Is my mind and body connected? Do I feel like there's a distance between them? Do I feel like I trust myself to make decisions? Do I feel like my body trusts me to make decisions? Is there a unity and partnership here, or is it a battle? Spoiler alert, 95% of the time it's a battle, and it's okay. It's okay, because that's what we're doing here. You showed up, you press play, and we're going to learn how to take that battle zone and turn it into a place of calm and peace. I'm Jennifer Evans with Empowering Wellness Counseling Solutions. Thank you so much.